What's up, Facebook family? It's Lex, and just want to say hi. And I kind of have a couple of issues that I wanted to talk about tonight. And the first one, I was talking to a photographer that I did some work with not too long ago, and he's not affected with any type of addiction or anything. And he asked me why I was coming to Philly this week, and I told him, and he was like, "Do you want to shoot?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going to be meeting with so and so, and we're going to be spreading the message of hope." And he's like, "That's your problem." I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Hope, giving that false sense of hope. Once you realize that there is no hope, you'll be able to move forward." I was like, "Okay." And then we kind of went on to talking. He was like, you post these videos on YouTube and Facebook, and junkies don't watch YouTube and do all this when they're getting high. And I just kept quiet. I didn't say anything. I don't judge people and their responses. And I love this guy. I adore him. So he was like, "You're wasting your time. You should be out living your life, following your dreams, doing what you want in life, and stop wasting your time because people are born to fail. They're going to use, they're going to die, and you have no control over their life." Whew, okay. So that was that conversation. And I've had a migraine all day, and I've just laid in bed thinking about that and thinking about that. Like, okay, my whole core of everything that I do is spreading the message of hope, of showing people that you can change. I had prison guards come up to me and tell me that I deserve to rot in state prison. Not many. There was like one or two. I have to say, I'm still very good friends with a lot of people from Lackawanna County Prison. And I talk to them today, and I love them dearly. And my prayers and my thoughts go out to a lot of them because I know what they're going through. I have thoughts in my head. I'm trying to figure out how to word them. You could tell another person that they deserve to die, that they don't deserve to live, but yet these are the same people that are coming up to me saying, "You're so inspirational, and you should be so proud of yourself, and look at everything you've accomplished." And especially some of these people, since I've shot Maxim. Now that I've done something really big with my life, people want to talk to me or forget that I was a heroin addict and I was a crack smoker and I was taking 20 pills of Perc-10s a day, and I was a scumbag for 15 years. That all goes out the window. But that's why I talk about this and I keep my story on the forefront. When I tell my story, I've said it so many times now, I'm immune to it. And I've been blessed that every single place or platform I've spoken, they've always come back to me and said, "You've had the biggest viewing audience we've ever had." And I don't understand why that is. I can't. I was just talking to Jack Kropp. I was on his show last week, and he's like, "Lex, you're still like the best speaker we've had." And I was on the Volpe Report, biggest audience they ever had. Bigger than John F. Kennedy Jr., and I'm humbled. I don't understand why people are so interested in what I have to say. Like, for me, it's just my life. I fell, I stumbled, I picked myself back up. I fell, I stumbled again, I picked myself back up. And now I don't look back. Strength was always my only option. I was never... It was either move forward or die. But you can't put that on somebody if they're not ready to change. I wasn't ready to change for 15 years. And I'm very blessed that God kept me alive. Most are not that fortunate. I suffered a lot of consequences. A lot of consequences. And there are things that happened in my story that maybe only 5 people know. and the world will never know. There's a lot more that goes to what happened in my addiction than you guys will ever know. But when I tell you it took me to places darker than hell, it took me to places darker than hell. There had to be a turning point in my life where I was ready to change. I had to have that desperate gift of just being completely shattered and on my knees. I can't portray that enough to a mother or a father who direct messages me and says, please get my kid help, or please make my kid get sober. I can't tell them that you can't force recovery on anybody. So when we talk about spreading hope, it's maybe what somebody in the recovery community might say that might just spark that little bit of seeds in the back of your head, that when that person has reached their rock bottom desperation, they might remember that and say, you know what? I remember what that person said, and I want that. I know my sponsor is so spiritual. He's a man in his 60s, and I want what he has. His peace, his calmness, his serenity. I would give up everything I have in my life today to have what Don has. But the most beautiful thing about that is I don't have to, because I know if I keep working my program, it's coming. It's in the promises. It's stated right there for me to take. All I have to do is keep doing what I do on a daily basis and not go batshit crazy. Easier said than done. The best way that I can describe this to a person who's not in recovery: you ever drive by something a million times and you've seen it a million times and you look at it a million times and it's the same thing a million times, but on the millionth and one time you drive by that same structure or sign and something just strikes you different. Now, it's been monotonous the million times before and boring as shit, and you've driven by it every day on your way to work, but for some reason you're driving by it on the millionth and one time, and maybe the light strikes it different, or there's a shadow and you look at something and it just hits you and you're like, God, that's beautiful, or I never looked at it that way. It's the same thing for a person in recovery. You might hear something in your head 10,000 times and you're not ready for it. But maybe finally, after years of suffering and you can't live that way anymore, and you're hurting and you're desperate and you want to be a better parent, or you want to be a better child, or you just don't want to live that way anymore, maybe that 10,000th and one time that you hear something, it just clicks. It just clicks. And you decide that you want to be sober and you want to be clean. And whether you think it's a choice or a disease, I don't give a shit. I don't. I'm not an advocate for either. I have my own opinion, but I don't get into that. I don't get into the politics of that. I know in my heart what I feel it to be. I am an advocate for it's a human life. So whether I chose to put whatever in my arm, or I chose to take that first drink, or whatever it is, or my disease led me to shoot 50 bags of heroin a day, I'm still a human being who deserves to breathe just as much as you do. And so is everyone out there still suffering from addiction. And it's really sad that it gets to the point where most people don't understand this until it affects them or their children or their family. So if I was left to rot in that prison, I don't need to sit here and sing my praises of how many people I helped, or how many I got into treatment, or how many people messaged me and I was able to direct them. That's not what this is about. And I don't care how many people share or like this video. I hope that maybe one person who's struggling tonight might hear this and say, you know what, I'm not ready today. I'm not ready to get sober. But when I am, I know it can be done. That's it. That's why I do this. So maybe most might be beyond hope in the sense that this problem is so overwhelming, but I'm not going to give up. And I know the people that are in my recovery community are a strong group of advocates, and I know that they're not going to give up either. And I love them and what they stand for. Because when you see RIP status on your Facebook wall 3 and 4 times a day, it's not something to fuck around with anymore. Like, this is just, it's not even an epidemic. It's just war. It's all out war. I've never seen so many parents having to bury their children in my life. So many kids are going to grow up without parents. And if you've never tried these drugs, thank God you will never understand just how powerful they are. I can't. My dad asks me all the time, I can't make him comprehend a heroin high and what that feels like when you're so sick and that drug is just calling to you. The things you would do to feel better. Yeah, I allowed myself to get to that point. I absolutely did. So that leads me to this. If you're a parent and you're watching this, I know if you're a parent and you've been in recovery, you've already talked to your kids, so I'm hoping. If you're a parent and you don't think that this can happen to your child, I'm going to flat out tell you right now, you need to have a talk with your children because your child is not exempt from drug addiction. I graduated in the top 5 of my high school class. Straight A's. I was a virgin. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke a cigarette. I had scholarships to every college I applied to. I had the world at my feet. I was anti-drug. I was not going to ever try a drug in my life. So don't tell me that this cannot happen to your child. And I'm not saying because I turn out to be a drug addict that it's going to happen to your kid. I hope and pray it never does. But let me tell you something. If you won't talk to your kids about drugs, I have absolutely no problem whatsoever going into schools and talking to them for you. I will gladly do it. I have pictures from jail, pictures from when I was high, pictures of when I tore my face apart. They actually had to treat me with Silvadene burn cream in prison because of the scars I had on my face. That's how bad I tore my face apart. Burn cream. I will gladly go into any high school, grade school, and show them pictures. And if you think that that's going to traumatize them, tell me that when I hear stories of 11-year-olds shooting up with needles. Tell me that that's not traumatizing. If you're a parent, sit your kid down and talk to them about drugs. I have tons of literature if anybody needs it. I'm working with the Police Athletic League. I will get it for you. I have no problem doing it. But if you're going to sit there and think that you do not need to have this conversation with your children, you are sadly mistaken. So please sit down and talk to your kids about drugs and what is going on in the world today. They're smart, intelligent people. Don't think that they're stupid. I've heard stories as young as 8-year-olds selling their parents drugs in schools. So I'm going to leave you guys with, I hope everybody had a safe weekend. Please don't stop doing what you're doing. If anybody needs help, you know how to reach out to me. It was a sad week for our community last week. I think we lost 6 back home, just in one county. So, schools, preventative, if we could stop it before it starts, I think that's our next option because I don't know how to stop this problem. I don't know. But stick together. I love you guys, you know, and just pray for one another. If anybody needs anything, my phone's on. All right.